What is up, friends? Welcome back to the Devy Dose. I'm your host, Eric at EK Baller. With me, as always, we got Kyle at Kale Fantasy. How you doing, man?
We're chilling. I mean, this is my favorite show of the year. This is my favorite thing to research. These are the guys I love to draft and then typically drop at the end of the year. But you know, we're not here to talk about that part. We're here to talk about the ones that actually work out. So hopefully we'll get some hits on this show, and hopefully I'll succeed in my leagues because of it. Hopefully.
Well, your favorite show, and of course we have on one of our favorite guests. As we were just saying, Alf has this slot locked down in perpetuity because he is the man at the deeper cuts and recruiting. Alf, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm great. Glad to be here. You know, when I get the call around this time of year, it's always fun to come on and, you know, just be able to talk about all the work we've put in for the whole recruiting cycle. And for a lot of it, I feel like me and the guys at The Official, that's our podcast, you know, get into it. But then now is the time of year where everyone else starts getting interested in it with us. So it's always fun to come chat. And I'm glad, you know, to be able to share.
Man, every time I watch or listen to The Official, I'm just like, I need to like transcribe this. I can like be like typing notes as I go. It's so information dense, which is phenomenal. But I usually come into it without any prior knowledge of the guys you're talking about, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to remember names here, you know. But
sure.
It's a lot better. Oh, go ahead.
I have a lot of stuff in my notes app from listening to The Official.
Yeah. I mean, we try to throw out new names, and I think sometimes we might throw out too many names. But you know, we want to keep it fresh. We want to throw out new names, and at some point after the top guys we're going to talk about today, I mean, it's a volume game. Like, you just gotta put your coins on somebody who hits. But this is a tough endeavor, and so like hit rate's going to always be low, but they pay off big time.
Great. If you guys are just dropping in and you didn't read the show notes, we are talking about 3 stars that you need to care about for your CFF Dynasty drafts, for your Campus to Canton supplemental drafts. 3 stars you care about. This is a positionless show. We kind of hit the previous positions, the big 3 over the past 3 weeks with phenomenal guests in each one of those sections. So if you missed those, please go back to the channel and take a look. If you like this kind of content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Give us a like, give us a review, follow me, follow Kyle, and of course, follow Alf, although you probably are already if you're into CFF type content. And Alf, what do you got to plug tonight? What are you working on right now?
Yeah, so we are putting the final touches on the freshman guide. So campus2canton.com, our website, will put out a PDF guide if you don't want to be a member, if you don't want to have the monthly subscription, if you don't want all the amazing tools that we have and all the data that we have and all the articles that we have, you don't want any of that, you can at least get yourself a little PDF, put it on your computer, and actually cite it all year long, which I do. Even though I put the thing together, I still have it as an icon on my computer all year long and go, oh, you know, sometimes guys will just kind of come out of nowhere. I'm like, what did we say about him? I can't even remember. Did I like him back in the day? So it's still helpful to see what the thoughts were, you know, before they hit a college campus. And the freshman guide's absolutely the best way to do that. Additionally, we're going to have about 150 names on there from true freshmen, and then about 30 of universally unrostered guys who are already in college, you know, to keep an eye on. So guys who probably were not drafted last year based on percentages on Fantrax. These are guys unrostered that you need to keep an eye on. So that's a great piece. We've got that coming out March 1st. Other than that, just the website, campus2canton.com. Go check it out if you haven't already.
Love it. And, you know, we say every time we get one of you guys on, which is, of course, frequently, Kyle and I are both subscribers. And, like, I love the freshman guides. Even if, like me or Kyle do some work on this, too. Maybe not as year-round as you guys do. But it's still nice to have just a format of having organized. You can flip through and be like, oh, was this guy athletic again? And, you know, it's all kind of right there. So, yeah, awesome tool for anyone that plays this variety of fantasy football or just as a college football nerd in general, really.
Yep.
So I guess before we get into specific players, which the top 10 from Alf, excited to get into it. We got Kyle's top 5 that aren't on there to talk through. Alf, give me what's your general thoughts on the class? Just we've had a couple of your coworkers on already talk about it, but your personal take on the class, and like the top of certain positions, the depth of some other ones. Just give me your 2 cents here.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good class. I definitely don't think it's bad. It's just the biggest one that everyone's going to cite, probably has already mentioned and will continue to mention, is the lack of a really top end running back group. It's just a running back thin class, and that's from the top, the middle, and the 3 stars. There's just nobody to get too excited about, at least not yet. But there's some very high-end QBs, at least I would say 2 or 3 QBs at the top. You can be pretty excited about eventual NFL future, and some fun dual threats and stuff later down the lists. Receiver, you've got a potentially generational guy at the very top. Jeremiah Smith, I'm sure you've talked about him before. If anyone hasn't said it, I mean, he's like the first receiver to be the number 1 overall on 24/7. Maybe no, not ever, but I think maybe since Dorial Green Beckham, which has at least been 10, 15 years, they just do not put receivers that high. And he looks the part. He is not Dorial Green Beckham. I think he's going to be really good. And then there's other good receivers. And then tight end, there's 4 or 5 at the top of this class who's very worthy of getting excited about. So really, it's a decent class, except for running back.
Yeah, nice. So when we talk about getting into the deeper cuts here, 3 stars, low 4 stars, what specifically are you looking for? And it's a loaded question, obviously, but you're looking for traits? Are you looking more for opportunity? Are you looking for systems that guys are going to exceed in? And then are there certain positions that you find have more value coming from the middle of the pack than from the top?
Yeah, I would say that I like I am looking mostly for traits when you get down this low. 1 or 2 that you can kind of hang your hat on and say, look, if the rest develops, he's got this one elite or near elite trait. And if he kind of develops the rest, he could really just leapfrog people. Less worried about the immediate opportunity in general in college now because of the transfer portal. So there may not be an opportunity right away, but if they show their stuff in the first half of the season, they may nudge a guy out. The guy who was ahead of him on the depth chart, maybe he transfers. If you believe in the talent, for whatever reason, coach won't put this guy on the field, whatever. Maybe the guy who you've been targeting, that's the guy that transfers and gets opportunity elsewhere. So it's very, very fluid. My take on this is bet on the traits and don't worry so much. Now, when opportunity, just wise in and it all lines up, even better. But I'm not that worried about opportunity in the short term because of the fluidity of these rosters. But yeah, I would say mostly traits. And then in terms of positional, I've found that running back and tight end, at least for me personally, are areas that 3 stars can really turn a profit. Like Quinshon Judkins, Ashton Janty, Damian Martinez are all guys who have now gone well over 1,000 yards in their first 2 seasons on campus. They were all 3 stars as prospects. And now Quinshon Judkins is like off a lot of people's number 1 in his, future, I guess it would be the 2025 rookie class for the NFL. Some people are going to have Trevion Henderson there, but he's going to be neck and neck with Trevion Henderson as a lot of people's RB1. And he was a 3-star. So, those guys can like light year or, light speed warp to the top pretty quickly. And then tight ends, mentioned this before the show, 6 of the top 12 NFL dynasty type top tight ends right now were former 3 stars. And then there's another 3 or 4 that were less than 3 stars. So the high end of the tight ends don't seem to necessarily pan out. So I think it's an area that you can really get a guy who has future potential and not so worried about the star status for tight ends. Receivers and QBs, a little bit of a different story. I would pay the premium for those guys.
Yeah, love it. Kyle, do you have any perspective to offer on this outside of what Alf brought up?
Yeah, I don't go quite as deep, and I'm a sucker for opportunity and systems. So I tend to filter by that and then look for traits. So my process is a little different. I'm definitely not hitting quite as many players as Alfred. when I do that way, but I think it tends to work. And I think a lot of like trying to find value depends on what you're looking for. There are a lot of guys on this list who are going to, MAC schools or Mountain West schools, and I think they're going to have great college fantasy football careers. Maybe they won't do crap in the NFL. They might not even get drafted. But if you're looking for CFF guys, I think looking at opportunity, looking at systems where these guys succeed, and looking at skill sets that fit these systems is a great way to find like late CFF draft guys, late C2C draft guys, and guys that like will succeed on your roster for 4 years. And I mean, like guys like Rasheen Ali. I mean, like dudes that nobody's really looking at out of high school as like a Devy option. Probably still not a Devy option, but a great CFF career. So,
yeah, that's funny. I think I have less background knowledge than either one of you, but I focus a lot more on chasing buzz, and then obviously comparing that to opportunity and talent too. Sorry, Alf, you had more feedback?
No, I was just going to say that except for the year Ali totally missed and kind of screwed me in one league.
Right.
Yeah, it happens. What are you going to do?
That happened to a lot of us that year, Alf.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I guess one more question before you lead in, mostly an Alf question, but Kyle, feel free to chime in. Where would you start looking for these guys in general in your supplementals? Are you drafting them after your top 20s? Are there certain guys? I mean, are these like 10th through 15th round guys? Or are there anyone in here that you feel like you actually have to pursue early, like John T a couple of years ago? I can't think of anyone last year. Really, it was like that. Shile's even was a 4-star, right? But I guess take that how you will and run with it.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you're talking some different kind of drafts here, if you're talking a Devy draft, it'd have to be insanely deep. I don't think any of these guys are going to be a Devy pick. If you're talking C2C, where these supplementals even go 20 rounds or more, I think 10 times 12 is 120 players. I think double-digit rounds is probably about right. Some guys, I mean, there may be out of the 10 I'm going to mention tonight, 2 or 3 that I reach on a touch. For the most part, you're talking about pretty late round dart throws for any of these 3-star guys. Especially when you start getting like G5 3-stars, like I might like them, but you got to realize this is a long road to hoe with a G5 guy. So certainly can be valuable, but I wouldn't stick your neck out too much. I would definitely once you start getting rid of most of the players that you recognize or care about, then start taking stabs here.
Yeah. Love it. Great rule.
I think I think looking at this, there are 4 guys we're going to talk about that are in my positional top 20s, and one guy who's a positional top 10 for me. Yeah. So I mean, there are guys who I would consider like semi-premium in this group, and I think I don't think I'm going to get the joys of like them slipping down to where I would be super happy to get them, because I think everybody's pretty locked in on these couple of guys that we both like pretty well. So
yeah, great. Well, if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, make sure you check out the YouTube. We got some film we're going to play for you. We've got some really nice player cards with data, some stats that might be relevant to soak in. And with that, let's roll, guys. Alf, you're in the driver's seat. Where do you want to go first?
All right. I mean, I love Aidan Glover. This is a guy that I would say I like to give credit to the guy I first heard it from, because when you're mining these guys so deep, it's just kind of a courtesy. I think David at Solving Football from our group, kind of first one to bring Aidan Glover to any of our attention. Very fun prospect. You can see here on the graphic some of his stats there. What I will say, a couple other things that we look for is max miles per hour. He's in terms of ball velocity, and he's got 52, which is pretty good. You want to be over 50 from what we've kind of gathered over the last few years. So that's kind of that minimum threshold of an arm that you can, he can make the throws, if you will. So he's at 52. That's good. He's a scrambler. You like that. Completion percentage, as you can see on the screen there, 57. leaves a little to be desired. I do think he's a bit of a gunslinger. I do think he's a bit of a, he's an aggressive dude. He's going to make throws where you're like, why did you even attempt that? With hit or miss at this point in his career, you can see 369 rushing yards. He's going to get some stuff done on the ground. He does have a nice athleticism score. He's just very fun. And for a long time, he was, I think, looking at some G5 schools. Missouri came in kind of last minute, scooped him up. That program is on the rise. I know I said I don't care about landing spot that much, but when it lines up, you're happy about it. And Missouri's a pretty fun little offense right now. So he won't start year one. They've got a really nice quarterback coming back. Brady Cook, I believe, is his name. But, good program, good talent, fun kid, 3-star. You're not going to have to pay a lot to get him on your team. And he's a fun guy to kind of watch.
Love it. Gonna roll a little bit of highlights for a minute here. Kyle, I believe you also like Glover quite a bit.
No. Unfortunately,
fair enough.
I think this is like the one guy on Alfred's list that I was kind of like scratching my head over. There are some traits here, but I mean, he played in Tennessee. I'm from Tennessee. I know it's not that great of football. Collierville kind of, especially not in the like Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville region, which is like actually those three regions are pretty decent, but Collierville's kind of, I believe, in the middle of nowhere. Well, actually, no, he's playing Nashville competition right there. But I mean, just like unimpressive statistically, not super impressed on film. I don't like the gunslinger-ishness, the just too much head scratching for me to really be super excited about him. But I do see the traits. I do think he could develop into something pretty interesting.
Yeah, I will definitely second the fact that I don't know if I have his strength of schedule, but yes, Tennessee high school football, not great. So additionally, another thing to mention, he's very young for his class. He's going to be 17 years old, about 17 3/4 on National Signing Day. So we look at that, especially at quarterback and wide receiver. That's a nice little bonus points for us if you're really young. And that could explain a little bit of the rawness. And so, it just kind of means they probably have a little more room to grow, that they're doing this at, under 18 years of age on National Signing Day is great.
Yeah. And the highlights are certainly nice. Some nice stuff on the run, some nice ball placement, seems some chemistry with his receivers, but that's why highlight reels are highlight reels, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys, let's keep it rolling.
Oh yeah, Caleb Osborne, definitely another fun one, and this is a guy going to the MAC, so you love to see that. Kind of going to be the heir apparent to Daquan Finn, who just finished up about 2.5 seasons of really nice college football production. And man, now I can't even remember where he's going to play next year, but he leveled up to a
Baylor.
Baylor. That's right. So he leveled up to a Power 4 conference for his final season. And that Toledo, I mean, this guy could see time next year. I would not be shocked at all. Their quarterback room is nothing. The guy who's technically the incumbent is under 50% completion his entire college career. And Osborne is a late conversion to quarterback. And you can tell in his junior tape and his senior tape a pretty big difference in throwing motion and just like general consistency. So even between those years, he kind of did some things that you want to see in terms of growth as a passer. And he had some just insane statistics as a senior. This is just his senior year, right? So he had 1,800 yards as a senior, 25.
Yes.
That's on the ground. 1,800 yards on the ground, 25 rushing touchdowns. He's going to be a threat on the ground, and his arm is good. 52 velocity. He's also under 18 on signing day. We like to see that. He just checks a heck of a lot of boxes. And honestly, I got even more excited. I A and B'd his junior year and senior year tape back to back. And you can tell the motion is much better, much cleaner, much crisper as a senior. And so if he continues on that trajectory, very interesting guy in terms of just that dual threat, where if the pieces come together, you're talking about a real, perfect storm.
Yeah, I mean, with the schools that report their stats to Max Preps, Caleb Osborne was the leader in total yards in the nation. So passing yards plus rushing yards, just incredible.
Almost 6,000, almost 5,000.
Yeah, that's like Lamar Jackson and in college-esque. Yeah.
Yeah, just like stupid statistically. Has some accuracy, can really get it done on the ground, and is gonna go play in the MAC. Like, this is like perfect recipe for like CFF success. I too believe that he's seriously in contention for this job right off the bat. I mean, it's hard to not see them go for somebody in the spring portal, but it's Toledo. They can't bring in somebody who's that good. I think Osborne is a potential game breaker for CFF in his career. He's tall, he's just superbly athletic, and can make a lot of throws. So I'm super excited about what this kid can be.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the stats, I look at the tape, and I look at the landing spot, and I think this is a guy you're not getting in the 12th round of your supplemental. We're all going to be pursuing him a little bit early for a 3-star.
Yeah, especially if you get to the point where you're not as worried about NFL potential. Now, I think that throw, I don't know if this is a mix between junior and senior, but the first few throws I'm pretty sure were his junior tape. And you can tell he kind of flies his elbow a little bit on his motion. He looks a little loosey-goosey. And then his senior year, he's a lot tighter. And the motion looks more consistent and repeatable, which is really promising if he was able to tighten all that up in 1 year, where he could go.
Yeah. I think this was his senior tape, but probably something he's still working on. You know what I mean? You're getting it right 80% of the time instead of 60% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really fun, man. Those are absolute video game stats. Very excited for his college career. All right. What's next, gents?
This is a personal, like, I'm a stan. I'm a Jay Stuckey stan. I don't know how Kyle feels. I don't know if he's going to be.
I'm with you.
I actually just wrote Stuckey up the other night for the freshman guide. So I went back into his tape, looked at it. It's been a while. I think he had some new stuff up from his senior year. And I'm leaving like more in, and it feels crazy. Eastern Michigan, terrible landing spot. But it is the MAC, so who knows? But this guy just kind of is a dude. I mean, he just looks like a dude. The way that he commands the pocket, the way that he kind of makes easy throws look like he makes big boy throws. I mean, he makes 15-yard outs to the sideline. Like, he can do it. He can make some throws on the run. He can make off platform. We don't have a ball velocity on him, unfortunately, so I can't confidently say he's over 50, but I'd be surprised if he wasn't. Although sometimes the tape can lie. I mean, it looks like a strong arm and it's not. But 6'2", 190, again, like Toledo, Eastern Michigan, nothing going on in that QB room. I think he's a spark plug, and he had some excellent stats. You can see here, 2,800 passing with 72% completion. I look at that more than anything else. Honestly, completion yards per attempt sitting at 11.8. You love to see that. Rushing yards, 855. That's fantastic. He's a true athlete at the position for sure. Big fan. Going to the MAC. He's not going to be as popular as Osborne, but I think this is a guy, if you miss on Osborne because you weren't bold enough, tag him later. Same situation to me.
I am right there with you for sure. I mean, we always throw in a couple, really deep sleepers on our position shows, and Stuckey was my call for the quarterback show. This is a guy who, video game numbers, just like Osborne, great arm, makes a lot of great throws. Oh my gosh.
That's the one I've been mentioning. I mean, it's like 25 yards out, just kind of on the money.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the height, he needs to add a few pounds, but he's a true dual threat right now, and, has room to grow, in my opinion, even more. So we'll see how that works out at Eastern Michigan. I don't have a lot of faith in that staff, but I mean, this is a man amongst boys. This is what you love to see when you're looking at film from like lower tiered competition, which I do think it's important to say that both Stuckey and Osborne are playing in like mid-level competition in Indiana and Michigan respectively, which aren't really, high school football powerhouses, but like they both look like men amongst boys, which is what you should look like when you're playing in this competition and you're being talked about as a legit recruit. So I don't think there's much more they can do to, other than transferring. Like what can you do to beat the strength of schedule allegations?
Yeah, I think Stuckey's from Indiana. I believe that some of the bigger names like Cedar Grove tried to get him to come, and for whatever reason he elected to stay where he was. But some of the bigger schools in Indiana did try to get him to transfer. I heard that the other day when I was talking about Stuckey to someone else. Plus, he has that like sunshine look from Remember the Titans, which is always like the blonde hair, the blonde long hair coming out from under the helmet. It just kind of looks like a badass. So, but like that out there, I mean, those are simple throws, but honestly, sometimes a 5-7 yard out on the money on time to me is more impressive than like a 50-yard bomb, because those are the plays that you're going to have to do, and avoid an interception, a pick six. That's a throw. If you're don't have the arm or you're not on time, that's a pick six. I mean, you throw an out in the wrong place, pick six. So those, I look for those, and they don't even show up that often on highlights because they're not sexy. But when they show up, that's really impressive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think particularly from the big athletic raw guys, right? You're cautious about those short throws and the touch and so on. So let me ask you guys: is he going to start this year?
It's so hard to say, but I would say in the G5, freshman QBs start in the second half of the year very often, whether it's injuries or just literal lack of anybody else who's worth a shit. In the Power 5, it's a lot less common for a freshman to start. But when you're looking at Toledo's depth chart, Eastern Michigan's depth chart, I mean, by the third, fourth game would not shock me. I mean, it's hard for a guy to come in right off the bat, week one, but there's a lot of fluidity on these rosters. And I think he's got, like, you watch him, it's like he's got a spark. I mean, they're sitting at 0-3. What do you have to lose? I mean, see if he can even get a rushing package in there or some kind of like thing to show if he's got a spark.
Yeah, I think Eastern Michigan specifically did get Cole Snyder from Buffalo, who I think is fine.
It's like his 15th year in college. He's just the most mad. But you're right. He's like a veteran and all that. But, man, he's just so boring.
I was going to say that's the problem with these lower level schools is that they have the 6th year guy starting, right? It's a little tougher.
They just recycle everybody.
We're going to get rid of these COVID guys, but
last year, right? Last year, almost
got to be the last year. But honestly, Cole Snyder's 6th or maybe he's at least 6th, maybe 7th year, and he's just the definition of coaches.
All right, so I think you got another Iowa guy coming up here.
Oh yeah,
or was this a Josh Cavalier guy? I can't remember. I think they both liked him.
Josh had him top 15. I had him top 10.
I think he's in my top 10 as well. I'm gonna have to double check, but this is a guy. If you're listening to the official, you heard us talk about Johann Cardenas. I mean, probably last freaking summer. I mean, it's almost been a year now. We've been talking about him. He checks all the boxes. He reminds me, just in terms of situation, a lot like Damian Martinez. I remember watching Damian Martinez as a high school senior. Numbers are very similar. In fact, Cardenas' numbers are even better. Coming out of the state of Texas, 220 pounds, hit 21 miles an hour, going to an open depth chart at Oregon State. And I'm like, what is wrong with Damian Martinez? Why aren't we talking about him? Sure enough, ran for 1,000 yards as a true freshman, was like day one, the dude in camp in spring. I wouldn't be shocked if that's Cardenas. I mean, he's got the athleticism. He's got 21 miles an hour, 215 pounds. You can see this, 2,000 yards as a senior. And more impressive than that, 9.1 yards per attempt. So it's not like he did it on 500 attempts. He's got decent receiving chops. He can be used. He's got the build to be a 3-down back. He's got the skill set to be a 3-down back. A little old for his class. That does not worry me as nearly as much with running backs as it does with other positions. So I'm fine with it. Came all the way back from ACL tear in 2022. So he looks all the way back and he's going to an open depth chart and it's the SEC. So if he produces, he's going to be on people's radar. There's a strong likelihood of, upward mobility in terms of transfer. I don't know what people are missing, like recruiting services and stuff. Kyle, you can give your thoughts, but like, he's just one of these guys where I'm just like, I don't know what you don't want, or what is about Cardenas that's like not exciting. He's pretty much exciting.
Yeah, I mean the size coming out of high school is awesome. Like 6 foot 215 is great. Just superbly athletic. Using the C2C athletic comp tool, 97th percentile power, 70th percentile speed, 80th percentile burst. Just like checks all the athletic boxes you want to see, has great size, has shown the ability to catch the ball, has like 35 catches his senior year. So he's just a guy who can like do it all. And I also don't understand what the services are missing with this kid. I think Rivals has him as a 4-star, but everybody else has him as a 3-star. So I think you're getting a steal if you're drafting Cardenas, but I think this is the guy who, like I said earlier when we were talking about it, this is the guy you're not going to get value on, because I think everybody's gonna catch up with us on Cardenas, especially those of us who, watch the Campus to Canton group and stuff, which I think is most people who play in the leagues with me and EK. So yeah, I think he's going to be like a close to consensus top 10, 12 running back in the Campus to Canton playing league circles. So, but I think he absolutely deserves it too, is the other thing.
Yeah, and I guess the ACL tear in 2022, that was his junior year, I guess. That could hurt things in terms of the services. Maybe they never got back on him. That does happen. He wasn't high to begin with. ACL tear, never really had a big rise. When you watch this guy, though, I mean, he does remind me of Damian Martinez. In fact, he might have a little more elusiveness than Martinez ever had. So, yeah, it's pretty easy pick for me on Cardenas.
Was it really bad high school competition? Did that ding him?
Yes and no.
Sure. It's Texas, but some Texas regions aren't that impressive.
It's Texas, but it's not great. Texas, but
it's like West Texas, right?
It's Houston.
I think it's
like small private.
That's like private school too.
But they did go 12-1. I mean, they took care of business, but yeah.
He also missed his opening few games as a senior weren't great, so he didn't get some momentum right away either, and then finished like crazy hot. But he was still recovering from ACL. I think he had some other little dings as well, but I think it's also
so impressive to have a 2,000-yard season coming off an ACL.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. I didn't even realize he had 2,000 yards. I was just checking the stats the other day, and I was like, oh my God, he got up to
200 yards a game.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, gosh, look, I think I like him better than like everyone except like the top 5 or 6 guys for me, honestly, in this class. Me coming to it with fresher eyes than you guys, but
I've got him officially at 7.
That sounds about right. Yeah, there's some of the guys in Josh Cavalier did running backs with us, and Kyle was like after like 5 or 6. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I like them, but I think was a lot of the consensus on this. But I can see it with Cardenas here, man. He looks like he's got some legit traits. So, okay, guys, where to now?
Just for people listening, Vandy is a school that we kind of we flag it. When Vandy offers somebody, we flag it because they know what they're doing in terms of how they are filtering guys in terms of athleticism. They find guys who are under the radar and then often don't sign them because by the end of the cycle, someone else is sniffing on them. So Cardenas ended up sticking with Vandy, but like if it's a year out and Vandy's offering, we definitely pay attention. So that's another kind of a seal of approval.
And it's finally starting to show on the field too. Like Shepard, London Humphreys. I mean, all these guys are leaving now, which is better for their NFL futures. But like we have the proof that what we're saying about Vandy recruiting well athletically is correct. So,
yeah, they've done great at wide receiver and tight end over the past 3 or 4 cycles for sure.
And we loved a guy in 2023, Kamorian Pimpton, for a long time. And then right the last second, LSU swooped in. He didn't do anything as a freshman, so TBD. But right as the last second, he gets the big offer from LSU and went there. So it's definitely something to notice.
Okay, gents, looks like Jason Patterson is up.
Kyle, you want to go first?
Not really. I don't know. This is kind of a guy that like fits a system really well. I mean, in terms of what Kentucky's looking for, like powerful running backs, not really asked to catch the ball. I think Patterson fits what they're looking for, and he does a lot of things that fit that system really well. 9.8 yards per attempt, 16 rushing touchdowns, 108 yards per game, but only 3 receptions. He's definitely limited in that area, but he's a big guy, powerful running back. I think he fits what Kentucky wants, and I think that's something to definitely look out for.
Yeah, I mean, I would boil it down to just fast. He is pushing 22 miles an hour top speed. That's elite. He's 21.9, but if you get even flirting with 22, that is truly elite. So if he has a seam, he's gone at any level. That is, you can't catch me. Agree on the receiving issues. So he's a very fast running back who's kind of a one cut and go straight more than anything else. But that is a profile. I mean, that could play. So when you're talking about 3 stars, I talked at the beginning, 1 elite trait, he's extremely fast. So worth, putting a chip on him, but I don't think he's the most complete back, and both on receiving and just in general, like, side to side change of direction, agility, not as impressive at those areas, but like could be a guy in the right system who finds daylight, and if you're talking eventual NFL, I think he's the kind of guy who fits in like, that Shanahan tree, right? You've seen Mostert do this. You've seen Elijah Mitchell do this. You've seen, obviously, Christian McCaffrey fits any system, but these guys who are just like one cut and go could be that type of runner.
Yeah, like the Miami guys, because they all wind up in Miami now.
Right.
Like Ahmed and who's the other one? Jeff, what's his face, right?
Jeff Wilson.
Yeah.
Alvin Ahmed. Yeah. But yeah,
it reminds me
overall,
of like
just the elite speed I would be interested in betting on, but that's where it stops for me.
He reminds me of like Treston Ebner, who had a very succeeded a lot with that at Baylor. And Kentucky is definitely willing to just turn around and hand it off 20 times, so 20, 30 times. So
how is the depth chart at Kentucky right now? I can't think of it.
They got the kid from Arizona State and then Ohio State.
They got Chip Trayanum.
Yes.
Oh, Trayanum.
Yeah. People, I mean, that hive.
I like him.
Just so intense, though. Like, people have loved Trip Trayanum. Even when he was a linebacker at Arizona State, there were people like, I still believe he's a great running back. And then he went to Ohio, or maybe he was a running back, and then went to Ohio State. He played linebacker, and then he flipped back to running back, and people like, I told you.
Everyone was hurt.
Now he's going to get the one shining moment at Kentucky this year, so we'll see what happens.
You know what? He looked good in the snaps he got last year. I mean,
I think, like you said, like Kyle said, I mean, he could be 25 touches a game just because that's what they want to do. So I'll buy that in college for sure.
Yeah, the problem of Chip is the people that have him, like you said, ain't going to trade him to you.
They are a serious hive. Actually.
Yeah. All right, gents, what's going on now?
Wide receivers.
Oh, yes. Okay, so this is a dude who kind of, honestly, even for me, and I'm steeped in this all year long, I kind of missed him a little bit. I actually brought him up to David and Matt, who I do the show with every week. I'm like, did we talk about Jeremiah Melvin this year? And they're like, yeah, we brought him up a few times. I was like, man, I just missed it completely. But I wrote him up the other day for the guide, and he's really interesting. So he's big, 6'5", pushing 190. So that's kind of the upper limit of size. I don't really want to see guys much bigger than that. Because they don't really sink their hips. They can't move. They can't change direction that well when they get that tall. The levers are too long, and you just need a special athlete to still be able to control your body and do the things you need to do as a receiver. And he flashes a little bit of that movement. I really like how he, breaks, how he controls his body. He does get a little hip sink. He's not just running straight line and jump balling people, although of course he can do that. He has a nice top speed, 21 miles an hour. That's great. I don't care that much about top speed with receivers, but it's good enough, and we'll like that. I mean, it's better than good enough. It's very good. He's also going to be 17 years old, 3/4 in signing day, so he's very young. Broke out late in high school. As a senior, though, he went absolutely berserk. I think 65+% dominator, basically like market share. He had 1,000 yards. The next closest guy had like 400. He had like 15 touchdowns. The team threw 24 touchdowns. So, he basically had the entire receiving offense to himself as a senior. And I don't know what I said, 19. I don't know if it was 19 or 15, but it was 19, I guess, receiving touchdowns. He also returned some kicks, which I like to see. And yeah, he's just very interesting. You can see On3 has got him as a 4, 24/7 has him as a 4, I guess you've got. So must be Rivals and ESPN just tanking him completely. But good offense. We like Wake Forest. I'll shut up. Kyle, have you scouted this guy yet? Because like I said, he was kind of new to me.
Not a ton, but like this is the profile that has succeeded at Wake Forest recently.
Yep.
Tall, decent speed, goes up, wins jump balls. I mean, you run an offense like that where you're sucking the defense into the middle of the field every single play. The jump ball wide receivers are going to be huge for them. So I definitely think he's in a spot where he can show out and be the guy in the future. I do have his high school's like overall stats open. 92.2 yards per game for Jeremiah Melvin. Next closest in receiving yards per game is 25.7.
Ridiculous. Yeah, he was the passing offense. That's it. And this is going to be kind of I guess he had to dive for that one. I thought it was going to be a long one, but he definitely shows some building blocks. And honestly, receiver's a tough one. There's not 3-star receivers is a little less of a fruitful endeavor, but like you said, A.T. Perry type build, and we like to see that at Wake Forest. And that receiving room, is brutal. Taylor Morin's the only guy, and he's coming back for like his, he's got one more trip around the sun, I guess, but after that, everyone's transferred out or graduated, exhausted eligibility. So there's outside receiver snaps available day one. I don't know if he'll take them, but the opportunity is absolutely there.
Yeah. Looks like he's got some legit ball skills in the air for sure. Although his route running seems to be consisting of run downfield fast.
Yeah, I think there's a couple comebacks and stuff where he does show a little change of direction and the ability to kind of go snag the ball. But yeah, definitely a traits guy.
All right, Alfred. We got another one that I adore.
Oh, yeah. This was a funny one because Matt brought him up on the show for the first time. And we're all like, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. I looked into him more, thought about it a little bit more. By the next show, I'm like, Canberra Johnson's a top 10 receiver. I don't care. And Matt's like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit here, dude. I like him too, but you're crazy. And he's consistently stayed around there for me. The thing we're looking at here is insane ball skills, really aggressive, able to catch the ball outside of away from his body. He's a smallish guy, 5'10", 180-ish, but he really plays bigger than that, plays stronger than that. And the way he goes and grabs the ball, to me, shows he can probably, figure it out against bigger, longer corners just because of the way he gets the ball out in front of him. He does not let it come to him. And he's great route runner, really, really fast in short area. His top speed, I think, is not excellent, but like short area quickness is incredible. He's going to be 17 and a half years old on signing day, or was 17 and a half. That's almost, I think it's 93rd percentile. He's super young. You can see the stats right there, looking great, 15 or 1,200 yards as a senior. And here's the kicker. I'll throw it to Kyle. He is probably going to play the slot in a Phil Longo offense. We've seen Josh Downs do this. We've seen, who was the guy before Downs? I can't remember exactly, but UNC had 2 or 3 guys in a row that just went berserk out of that slot. And Will Pauling, who played Wisconsin last year and is coming back for this year, but he was their top receiver by almost double the next closest guy. The offense runs through the slot, and Barry Johnson should be the slot receiver starting 2025 at the latest.
Yeah, it was Daz Newsome and Diami Brown before.
Diami went crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I think this is another one where like situation and talents are just like perfectly matched. I think Barry Johnson is
Look at that.
a little he's vertically challenged in terms of height, obviously not in terms of vertical jump. So likely a slot guy in his future, and I think he has the route running savvy to be that. And I think he can even continue to grow in that field. And I think he's electric with the ball in his hands. So he's like everything I'm looking for in a slot wide receiver, and he goes to like the perfect slot wide receiver offense. So this is a guy. I think he's really fast too. Like I don't know what you guys have him at. You have him at a
I actually don't
74th percentile speed.
I think that's based on a track time or something. I don't know. Some guys you just don't end up getting enough of a wide open run to kind of clock the max mile per hour. So I don't think we got one on him. But yeah, I think it's from a track time of some kind. So he's fast. There's no question.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And the short area quickness is huge. I mean, he's got all the traits to look for in a slot wide receiver. So super excited.
But he goes up and gets it. Like he will high point the ball better than a lot of other guys in this class. Like even though he's 5'10", I mean he skies. He gets the ball at the most optimal position more than a lot of other guys in this class. Like he just knows how to play receiver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He went viral a couple of times with some one-handed grabs I've seen.
Yeah, he's got
TikTok and stuff. So
yeah, very fun kid.
It makes me feel kind of like watching Eugene Wilson last year, who I know you also liked a lot, Alf. Just the way like he's like one of the little guys on the field, but he's just outplaying everybody and just plays the position well and is just creating. I mean, I fell in love with Wilson the first time I watched his tape, and I think I see just that they have a different game, but excel in the same manner, right? Outperforming, which I love that. It's like the AB thing for me, right? Like you're not the biggest guy, you're not the fastest guy, but you're just going to get it done. So
I think that's a pretty, I hadn't really thought about that, but I do think, I think that's a decent kind of parallel with just aggressiveness, the ability to just outplay everybody around you. And Wilson did that thing where you just like, somehow he's out in front of that ball at all times. I don't even know how to describe it. I'm not a professional scout. I know it's like hands catching, but it's more than that. It's like he just goes and gets it before anyone else can get around it. It's like a nuanced skill.
It's like timing and attack and tracking and all those things combining at the catch point, right?
Yeah, and Wilson
just saw it on that last play too.
Yeah.
There was a slant. There was a slant into the end zone just a second ago on this highlight reel where it was a hospital ball and he just jumped right in front of the corner and got it. Anyway,
literally did exactly what Al was describing. It was perfect. Perfect. Okay, enough about him. Now everybody go forget about him, particularly if you play in league.
Okay, we got Alex Green here. This is a bit of a deep shot. However, he played on a high school team with a 4-star quarterback going to Texas Tech. So you probably watched him even if you weren't watching him, because Will Hammond was throwing to Alex Green to the tune of 102 receptions for 2,000 receiving yards and 19 touchdowns. That is 1 year, folks. That is 1 year of stats. He led the nation in receiving. I'm pretty sure he led the nation, or top 2 at worst. 5'11", 188, top speed over 21 miles an hour, hits those thresholds. We like that. Decent build. Probably could get to roughly 200 by the time his college career is over in terms of pounds. He's young for signing day, under 18. We always like that. And the sheer production should put you on the map here, even though his senior year. He was also really good as a junior as well. So it wasn't a one-year wonder. I just wrote him up the other day. So some of these guys are very fresh in my mind. He really is a fun player to me because he always makes more out of every single catch. So whether it's an out, he's looking to get around the DB and get more yards. Some guys catch the out and they're happy just to walk out of bounds. He's stopping and figuring out turn in, turn out. Where's the DB? He can feel it. It looks like he can kind of feel where that DB is, and he often will make the right choice and gain, 5, 10, 15 extra yards, even if it's not a ton. Those little things matter at the next level because, you have to be trying your hardest on every single play. Also, if he catches the ball in space, he's going to figure out a way to add a whole bunch more yards. Very fun guy after the catch. Love his yards after the catch. That's something I really look at because if you're in high school and falling down after the catch, you're not going to do shit in college. Like everything should be easy for you in high school. And Alex Green, it looks like everything was very easy for him.
Yeah. I mean, this is a kid who I didn't really like watch on purpose. But like I was putting the card together and everything. And I was like, what are we doing? Why is this kid a 3-star?
Why is Alvin doing this?
No, not you, but like 247. Like how is this kid a 3-star? I mean, he's got good size. He ran a 10.8 100-meter dash as a junior. 2,000 receiving yards, a district MVP in Texas 6A football. He just checks every box. Like maybe I haven't watched the film enough and I'm missing something, but like just on paper, he checks every box. Once I put it all together, I was like, oh, it's that kid because I'd watched Hammond and I was like, oh, it's that wide receiver because I went back, I could remember it. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what we're doing. This feels like a smash, and I don't understand how he didn't have. I know he did have some P5 offers.
He
ended up picking Tulsa over.
Might have had Northwestern and someone else, but stayed closer to home. I think he's a guy. This is a prime candidate in my mind to like level up to Power 4. After his sophomore year or something like that with a transfer and play 1 year at another school and then go to the NFL. If it all, obviously, if it all comes to fruition and we're not missing something, but.
Yeah, it's Northwestern and Washington State, but I don't understand.
That's a nice little double move right there he put on that guy.
Yeah, it just like does not compute as to why he didn't have more offers, why the services weren't a little higher on him, but I don't know. It feels like a smash to me.
I said on a show a couple of weeks ago, because I think he was on our 3-star show for the official. I was like, we could definitely look back in a couple of years and be like, oh, it was Alex Green, not Will Hammond. Like Alex Green made Will Hammond. I think we could look back and be like, oh, it was always Alex Green. So, yeah.
How's the system at Tulsa this year? They had coaching changes, right, Kyle? Or no?
It's no good. I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing good. I think they're top
right?
like 700, 800 yards. That was their number one guy.
Is it the same staff?
Yes. They hired Kevin Wilson last year, who was the old OC at Ohio State, but he was kind of pushed out of Ohio State and then hired at Tulsa. I don't know.
Today I learned
Steve Spurrier Jr. is their OC.
He's the OC. That can't be terrible.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Kevin Wilson, I think, is a defensive-minded guy, their head coach. But at this point, I'm betting on traits and the eventual transfer. I think that highly of Alex Green.
Nice. Love it. Okay, guys. Who we got?
Who's next? Oh, yeah, I like this guy too. Brandon Phelps. He is a 3-star, pretty low, probably one of the lower rated guys we're going to look at here. He is the leading receiver in Arizona prep history. Best receiver ever in the state of Arizona. And honestly, it's the state of Arizona. Who cares? But like, you look back at some other kind of anomalies. And, for instance, like who was that guy in the Patriots who played at like Shadron State or something, the little running back. Then he played for the Chargers. I'm going off on a tangent here, but
Danny Woodhead.
Woodhead, yes.
Yeah.
He was like the greatest player in Division III history, won multiple of their version of the Heisman. I do believe that if you look at guys who are the best ever in a certain area, even if it's not the best ever in the SEC, but the best ever in their neck of the woods, you've got to pay attention because those guys are sometimes so special. They just didn't have a universe to impress the whole world. But when they level up, you realize, oh shit, they're actually like that good no matter where they are. So, Brandon Phelps fits that mold so far. Best high school receiver ever in the state of Arizona. And you can see those numbers there. He did that he was even better as a junior. I think he had 25 touchdowns as a junior, something like that, and 1,700 receiving yards. So, and then to get to the nitty gritty, what do you see on tape? I really like his hands. He makes NFL level catches on the fly regularly, one-handed diving, toe touch grabs, all this stuff. Body control looks amazing. And there's room after Tetoria McMillan for somebody to step in after Cowing is gone this year. So throw it over to Kyle for any additional color there.
Yeah, I mean, you started off with the stat I was going to start off with, just insanely impressive statistically in terms of, Arizona, even if it is Arizona, stays at home, stays in an offense that obviously loses their head coach. But I do think Marion is oh my God.
I know. You'll see it from another angle. This is the same catch from another angle. I don't think they ruled it in bounds, but still. It's nuts. Acrobatic, one-handed, falling out of bounds. OBJ. That's like OBJ. That's like the OBJ catch.
Yeah, it's just stupid body control.
He does, and it shows it over and over and over again. Toe touch. I don't know if we'll get all the way through to the toe touch. There's a few crazy, doing a plank, falling out of bounds kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do think the Arizona offense is a little up in the air. I mean, I personally think Marion's a good coach, but I mean, he had a lot of his success rushing the football. But obviously, Fafita this year they'll be throwing it all over the yard, and we'll see if he has a fourth year in him. He might just because of his size. Yeah. So, I mean, I think Phelps could easily be the future of this wide receiver room. I mean, Cowing's gone now. McMillan is definitely gone after this year. I mean, there's no question that he should deserve to be drafted, in my opinion, after this year. So
yeah, McMillan should be gone after 1 year.
He's gone. He's a first-round pick, man. Come on.
Yeah,
that's what most people are saying. Yeah, and I have to say he was a miss by me, but
my model has him as like easily the wide receiver one in that class. Burden's right there too, but like that's the one data-wise.
Yeah, he's looking fantastic. So he'll have 1 year, but you got like a stiff arm there. I mean, he's a dude. And then you got a stiff arm, then you got a whoop down the line. Safety completely misses him. 90-yard touchdown catch. He just looks like a dude. I mean, I think the athleticism is good enough. I don't think he's a supreme athlete, but like I value that less and less in wide receiver and more about like nuance and setting the DB up, keeping him off balance. And you don't need overwhelming athleticism to do some of that stuff.
Yeah. He's definitely winning at the catch point. Just going up, pushing guys out of his way, whatever he's got to do. Dude's going to eat. So love it. Love that attitude. All right. Last one of Al's top 10, and then we'll give a couple of minutes to Kyle's outer 5 here. But let's talk about Mr. Reed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to try the last name. Jesiolokowsk.
Yeah. One of the most fun, I think I sounded out the other day. It's got to be Jesiolokowsk, which is very fun. And he is a total project. He's probably the most bust-worthy of this entire list, just because he could be a nothing. He didn't even play tight end in high school. So it makes sense he went G5 because someone took a chance on his athleticism and stuff, but like we have no idea if he can play tight end. We don't know if he can block some DE coming around the corner or whatever. But supreme athlete, his comps in his top 10 comps on a comparison tool, Brock Bowers makes an appearance, just to give you an idea of his, ridiculous athleticism. And he was a running back in high school, ran for 2,000 yards as a senior. He also did catch there's some evidence of receiving on his tape. I mean, he caught 14 passes. There's some one-handed stuff. I will say what I'm looking for is his transition from the catch to upfield. Brandon Phelps does this really, really well. The gold standard of this, and Brian Hartline said it himself, was JSN coming out of high school. And Hartline describes it really well, but it's basically like, you catch the ball and your momentum does not get changed. You are continuing upfield as you catch the ball. I think he does a little of that on some of his receptions. And like I said, Brandon Phelps does that too. It's something I paid attention to ever since Brian Hartline said it, and he's like the best receiving recruiter in the country. So TBD on if he's a tight end. I'll just say that. But like, he's a really, really good athlete. And he's very, very fun. And I think a team like Southern Miss may want to use him as a gadget player right away. I think he could get on the field just because I think getting the ball in his hands is going to be good for Southern Miss.
I mean, I can see him running down the seam and G5.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, I mean, you may get 3 or 4 years of G5 production at a tight end, which is hard to find anyway. So I think he's a pretty fun guy.
Kyle, did you have anything on Jesiolokowsk?
I mean, this is another one that's just like such a fun little grab bag. I mean, no idea what's going to happen, but he's got, decent size. I mean, he's 6'4". That's tall enough for a tight end. And just like looks so supremely athletic. And he's playing football in Mississippi, but I mean, Hartfield Academy is one of the best teams in Mississippi. And he was a huge reason as to why, obviously, with 2,000 rushing yards. Tennessee sniffed around here a little bit and almost offered him. So I think he's super interesting. I think he's a prime candidate. Like if he flashes, route running and receiving ability after this transition to tight end as a freshman, I think he's moving up to the SEC. Like he's got that kind of, athleticism and ability with the ball in his hands. It's just going to come down to like, can he run routes well? Can he develop in that area of the field? And if he can, I think Power 5, Power 4 offers are going to come from the transfer portal next year.
Yeah. And I would say as well, anyone listening to this, like this is probably not a draftable player in most formats, but keep your eye on him, keep your ear to the ground. A lot of these guys are at the very least, listen in spring. I mean, Damian Martinez, I know I've said his name a lot, but he walked onto campus in spring and everyone's like, oh, he's our guy. So if you hear the name here, you've heard it on the official, you hear it on this podcast, and you hear some stuff coming out in spring, that is a huge green flag. Go get these guys. Don't wait. So if, just being familiar with some of these names and you start hearing some buzz in camp, it helps you pull the trigger faster, which beats your teammates or league mates.
Yeah, love it. He's definitely could be the sort of guy that's going to average like 15 yards after the catch for reception. If he gets the ball, so moves well for a big guy too. So love it. Super into it. That was phenomenal. That was a great list. Right. So Kyle, you got a couple of guys you want to talk about. Bang through these guys, and then maybe some wrap up notes. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to add some guys too. I mean, this is my favorite show as well, so I have my own opinions. I do love pretty much everybody that Alfred put out there. I mean, there's a lot of guys who would be in my top 5 3-stars who he mentioned, so this is kind of like the next tier for me. I think maybe 2 of these guys I would have ahead of a lot of the guys Alfred mentioned, but we'll throw them up on screen now. The first of which is another Oregon State running back, similar to Damian Martinez, Cornell Hatcher Jr. This is a kid who I look at and I it's another one where I scratch my head. I just don't get it. Why are we not talking about this kid more? He played at Centennial High School in California, which is right up there in terms of California football. They're playing teams like Mater Dei, Bishop Gorman, St. John Bosco. Max Preps ranked them as the third best team in California this year. And on that schedule, in that great team, he had 2,257 rush yards as a senior, averaged 8.4 yards a carry, scored 42 rushing touchdowns, was their entire rushing offense. He has 91st percentile speed and 83rd percentile power, according to Campus to Canton, over 4,000 career rush yards, 188 rushing yards per game as a senior, and somehow his only FBS offers are Oregon State, Wyoming, Air Force, and UNLV. For what it's worth, those are teams who, have good rushing attacks, find good running backs. But I just don't understand why he doesn't have more offers. He's got size, he's got speed, he's got athleticism. He just checks every box for me, and it feels like nobody else is noticing. So Cornell Hatcher is the guy in terms of 3 stars for me this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. He was on my short list. I almost put him on my list for today. I'm not as familiar with him, but I know that I think Matt and David both like him quite a bit. I think David likes him a lot. Matt too, and we brought him up a few times on the official. He's absolutely you're spot on with a lot of that. The offers were weird. I don't know if there's some unknown, variables that could have limited his offers, but yeah, I mean, the tape and everything else looks pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he was committed to Wyoming, and I was super excited about that. But Oregon State swooped in at the last second. So I think that's a good get for them, at least.
I'm looking at our grades right now. Austin has him 0.001 away from being a tier 2 running back, which is top 10 or 15, top 20 running back. So, and Matt has him at 0.675, that's pretty good. So we definitely have a lot of respect for Hatcher.
Yeah. Next up, I have Marshall Sanders going to Fresno State at wide receiver. He's kind of the hometown kid there, played at Clovis West in Fresno, California. Caught for 622 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns as a senior, but had over 1,000 yards as both a sophomore and a junior. As a career, 16.8 yards per reception. So he's a guy who gets it done down the field, has good size coming out of high school, and fits into a scheme that, has been good during the football. So I like Marshall Sanders quite a bit. You got anything to add there, or I'll keep going?
No, yeah, I keep going. I'm not as familiar with Sanders. I know he's come up for us a few times. But yeah, you got to love the system at Fresno State for sure.
And speaking of that system, I also really like their running back they're bringing in. This is a guy who this season had 3,297 rushing yards, 47 rushing touchdowns, 10.9 yards per attempt. Bryson Donaldson, 302 carries as a senior for Central Valley Christian in California, which, albeit is a lower level of the California private school football. But 302 carries, 1 fumble on 302 carries, and then turns that into 3,000 yards and 47 touchdowns. Also caught 37 passes for 654 yards and 10 touchdowns. Has good size already. He is another guy that checks a ton of boxes for me. Size, speed, athleticism, receiving ability, and is going to a great system for running back at Fresno State. They've had a lot of guys in the top 20 in CFF in recent years. God, he just ran over that dude. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a huge Bryson Donaldson fan for sure. Right up there.
Watch that first play again. He beats the entire team on this first play.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think that the only context is, Fresno State sounds great. I'm not sure he's the athlete that we can really be excited about. NFL, which is kind of I do care about that. I'm always thinking C2C rather than just CFF, but I think, he can be a beast at Fresno State. Do I think because he's got max speed of 20.5, that's not terrible, but I really want to see 21 or better. And so he's not really close to that. in terms of max speed. And running back, that's where it matters kind of the most to me, is that top speed. Receiver, not nearly as much. But in any case, I think everything you said about what he can do at Fresno is totally legit. And production was out the wazoo as a senior. So you love to see that. I just question a little bit of the over athleticism, which for running back matters a lot to me, because I think it's the kind of the most important for that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's 20.5 turn into? Like 4.6?
Yeah. You're looking at high 4.5s, 4.6 ish. I really want to see at least 21 for most guys, just to think about, like, do they even? I mean, that's like minimum for potential NFL.
Sure. My next one is a quarterback, Samaj Jones, heading to Cincy, taking over possibly for Emory Jones, which would be funny. But he went to St. Joseph's Prep in Philadelphia, followed up Kyle McCord there as a sophomore, and they were just the best team in the state for the 3 years that he started. He's now second in career passing yards in Pennsylvania, behind only the guy who was the quarterback before him, Kyle McCord. He won 2 straight titles as a junior and a senior, was runner-up as a sophomore. Just stupid statistics. I think he has like career almost 6,000 passing yards, like 2,500 career rushing yards. He can do it all. He makes good throws. He can get it done on the ground. I think this is a guy who can really succeed in an offense like Cincy's. So I'm super excited about what he can be, and not a ton of competition there. I mean, they bring in Brendan Sorsby from Indiana, but like that does not scare me. There's not really anything on that roster in terms of quarterback, and like, you know, they play a Big 12 schedule. They're going to lose quite a bit early, I think. And I think Emory Jones is going to get on the field as a freshman and really show what he can do. He reminds me of like Jalen Hurts, honestly.
Yeah, I love this guy. You don't have to tell me twice. In fact, I think the reason he's wasn't on my list for this show is I believe he's a 4-star composite, or did I miss that? He's a 4-star, maybe 24/7, maybe not composite, but I thought he was a 4-star, so I didn't include him on here. He's great though. I love him. He's like a top. This might be crazy. He's like a top 5 QB for me, just because after the elite set of 3, I think it's a total grab bag. I love this guy for every reason that you said, including the fact he can get on the field as a freshman. And as a kicker, he was listed at 5'11" his entire process. I don't know if you've checked the Cincinnati website, but Cincinnati has him at 6'1". Now, I don't know if I believe he's 6'1", but if he's even 6 feet instead of 5'11", as silly as it may sound, to me, that puts him a little bit more in a Devy conversation with real NFL upside. A 5'11" guy is going to be really hard. 6 feet, 6'1", that honestly does change things just in terms of how the NFL might pay attention to him. So, and I think Jalen Hurts is not a bad comp. He's already like 220 pounds. Like, he's just a tank, and he can get it done on the ground, short yardage, tush push all day with Samaj Jones. Let me see 20 rushing touchdowns one of these seasons.
You're right. He is a low 4-star on the composite, but he was a 3-star based on 247 alone, and that's what tripped me up.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to throw in there like how much I love him. How did he fall off of mine? I just wanted to explain why.
Sure.
You're wrong, Kyle. That's why.
Oh no, it's a great call. I know that name for sure. That's a great.
I just look. I mean, Emory Jones was what, like a top 8 CFF quarterback last year in this system.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be a first-round NFL draft pick to put points on your bench, but certainly the traits got Ritter drafted, and this kid seems to be a lot more polished than that, than Ritter was coming out of high school. So love it. All right, one more.
The last one I got is the opposite. He is actually a 3-star on the composite, but is a 4-star by 24/7 alone, and that's Trey Griffiths heading to Oklahoma State. Kind of falling into that Oklahoma State wide receiver trap again. He kind of is the exact same guy they keep bringing in a little bit. He's 6'3", 205. Runs pretty well. I mean, he has a 22.99 200 time, which is okay. He's not like a superb athlete. Well, although the prospect athleticism comparison tool on C2C does love him. 91st percentile speed, 82nd percentile burst, 75th percentile overall athleticism. So that jumps off the page to me. I think 3 800-yard receiving seasons. So productive. And, it was another guy who was playing Texas football, 6A, was also a track athlete, was 4th place in the state in the triple jump this year. I think he's just a really great athlete, and has some room to grow in terms of, routes and stuff, but he has the size and the athleticism that I like to see. So I think he can succeed in the future.
Yeah, and we I think you mentioned a track time, but we do have him on field at 21.9 miles per hour, which, like I said, 22 is elite, like no question elite. So he's right there flirting with potentially elite speed, straight line speed at least, at over 200 pounds. He is a beast X receiver with tremendous straight line speed, and if he can, turn out to be a pretty good route runner, I do think these are the building blocks. This is the profile for like a true supersonic, jump where he's all of a sudden like a Devy asset quickly. And we will see what happens. But like you said, I think a lot of people were excited about Talon Shetron a few years ago in that X mold at the Oklahoma State, just churning out beast X receiver lines. And he has not really done a whole lot, but like, let's run it back. Let's run it back with Griffith and see if we can be right on this, because when it's right, it is way right. I mean, you're talking about James Washington. You're talking about Des Bryant way back in the day, but I still think was under Gundy. I think Gundy's been there that long. You're
who was
talking
the last kid
about,
that went to the Ravens.
Aitman. There's an Aitman or something who kind of flamed out in the NFL.
Marcel Aitman.
There's Justin Blackmon, who was unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about the X receiver role in that Gundy offense is like gold. So let's keep taking shots at the potential X receiver, and that's what Griffiths, really profiles as. So no red flags on my end for this one.
Yeah,
Tylan Wallace was the last one.
Wallace,
was thinking of.
Yeah.
He was nasty. I mean, we just rattled off like 6 guys who went for like 1,500 yards in college, at least one season. So it's a huge, huge potential ceiling for that role in that offense.
Love it. Profile that I don't like as much, just the hyper athletic, but he's rough. I'm just like, I don't know. It feels like Cordell Russell or like any of those.
I've moved off of that profile in general. But when you're talking about these,
but it's cheap here. This is a cheap way to get exposure to that upside.
I'm way more comfortable with it. But yeah, in general, I agree with you, EK. I'm less on that project train these days.
Yeah,
I'm with the guys at the top too. It's just down here. I'll take it.
Yeah. Right. All right. So, question for each one of you guys: Who's the one guy that you're like, you gotta have, that's like your value pick that you're gonna try to snipe me by 2 rounds in our supplemental draft this year? Which one of these guys is it for you? Or there's someone else that you like withheld selfishly?
If we're talking about the guys we talked today, I mean, I think Kyle and I are probably going to say the same guy. I mean, for me, it's going to be Cardenas, just because I don't love the running back class, and he's a guy who you're not going to pay a premium, but I'll take a round early if I'm even concerned that another guy I know likes him or something, and I'm picking ahead. I may just go ahead and seal the deal there. And then I think Barry Johnson's a guy who I know I can wait a little bit longer just because he's so high up on my list. I know nobody else has him that high, so like I won't snag him as the wide receiver 8 or whatever because I know I don't have to. But eventually, I'm just gonna be like, F it, I'm taking him now, and that may end up being a little early.
Yeah, love it. Kyle, what's your answer?
I think those two, and then Samaj Jones, who I brought up, are the very obvious ones for the both of us. Like those are the guys that we see as like true possible Devy guys in this group. Obviously, I waxed poetically just a second ago about Hatcher and Donaldson. Those are the guys that I want in the 18th round of supplementals. Those are the guys that I'm going to go after almost every time. So I'd expect to have a lot of those too, especially Donaldson. But yeah, I think Samaj Jones, Johann Cardenas, Kean Barry Johnson are the real, guys I have my eye on, and I'm like, that guy could play in the NFL. So I'm with you.
Yep.
Love it. Love it. All right, guys. It's Al, it's always a privilege to have you on and talk shop with this, man. This is you guys are right. This is the most fun show we do all year, I think. It's just we play this format because we like the deep cuts, right? I mean,
yeah, you don't play this format,
we
it's
just-
not for the faint of heart. You got to like digging deep
Yeah.
and drafting the guy to go into Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, if we weren't nerding out in it, we'd just be dynasty players.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Well, look, you guys made it through this with us. We appreciate you. Make sure you're following Al. Make sure if you're not already, you're checking out a sub for Campus to Canton, and also, do me and Kyle a favor. Give us a subscription. Hit the follow button wherever you're viewing this or listening to this. We would love your support. And as always, it's a pleasure bringing you guys great content. Any parting shots from Kyle or Alfred? You guys got anything else?
We covered it, I think. And then hopefully DJ Lagway stays at Florida.
Oh, wait, what's happening?
Hopefully he leaves,
he's
actually.
really locked in now, but I just mean like for his career. I'm afraid
Oh,
to go to hell. And
you're a Florida guy.
I'm a Florida guy, so
Uh-huh.
But anyway, that was a really big recruiting victory for us, and I hope it stays and he gets a chance to he's kind of a guy who's like a must-have just in terms of his overall quarterback upside. But we didn't talk about 5 stars, but yeah, he's pretty fun.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun.
Personally, I really hope he and Eugene Wilson and anyone else on that roster with a
Get out
damn
of
leaves. So
Well, how about this? Let's agree to hope Napier gets fired and they hire
no. I hope you get stuck with Napier in perpetuity.
Yeah, I'm just to see guys. So now we're just going to start clashing.
Yeah. Keep me out of your SEC spat. These are the times that I'm glad that I went to Boston University and we didn't even have football. So, all right, everybody, we appreciate you all. Make sure you check back in next week. Hal and I got a couple more weeks of fun CTC, CFF content. Then we're going to hammer draft stuff for a little bit leading up to the actual NFL draft. And then we'll do a ranking summit after. But we got great shows coming your way all off season. And at least one a week in season as well, helping you win your CFF, helping you win your Campus to Canton leagues. No one else does exactly what we do in that manner. So definitely hope you guys stay with us through the off season. And be well, everybody.